In this video, I'm going to discuss the latest application rate for BTO and SBF in July 2025 for day 8. But today, we are not going to do like page scrolling like we usually do. For today, I have prepared some charts, so hopefully this would be clearer. For those of you who still prefer the original table, I would still include the page scroll recording at the end of this video, so you would be able to refer the data there. So let's start with 2-room flexi BTO first. So in this chart, you are able to see the total supply versus demand for 2-room flexi. So for example, for Bukit Merah, the total number of units is 248, but then the total number of applicants is 941, and this is combination between singles, second-timer families, seniors, etc. And then for Bukit Panjang, you can see the numbers here. But the reason why I want to give this chart is so that you are able to see roughly which project is the most popular. As we can see here, as of today, we can see that Toa Payoh is definitely the front runner for 2-room flexi. Even though the project only has about 195 2-room flexi, in total it's already beyond 1600 applicants for Toa Payoh, and because the application period is still open until midnight tonight, this number will continue to grow. Okay, now let's look at the application rate, starting with 2-room flexi for seniors for BTO. Yeah, so if you see at a glance here, the numbers doesn't change much. It's still following the trend from yesterday. So for example, Bukit Merah yesterday I think was still under 2, but then now it already increased to 2.4, etc. We can see the front runner is now Toa Payoh for seniors, and then the runner-up is Tampines, and then the second runner-up is Clementi. So still quite consistent. If you are interested to apply for a mature town, then the lowest application rate is still Bukit Merah at this point in time. For non-mature town, if we see on the table here, you would have the biggest chance at Sembawang, because this application rate is still the lowest at Sembawang. Okay, next up, this is the 2-room flexi application rate for first-timer singles as of today. This is the summary, and as we can see, the numbers is really through the roof for Tampines. It's 41, so definitely very heated competition. The runner-up is Bukit Panjang here, because if you recall, Bukit Panjang has a very limited supply for first-timer singles, so that also contributes to the very skewed and very high number. Other than that, if you haven't applied yet, your biggest chance right now would be in Sembawang, Woodlands, and Bukit Merah. Now let's talk about the application rate for 2-room flexi BTO, but for first-timer families. So for first-timer families, the number in general is pretty low, because most families would want a much bigger flat and not just 2-room flexi. But there are some outliers. So for example, in Bukit Panjang, because the amount of supply is very limited for non-seniors, hence the application rate becomes very high. And then the runner-up is Tampines, but then Tampines is a different reason. It's a mix between the limited supply and also the project is just very popular. Hence, you see the application rate, even for first-timer families, 2-room flexi, the number is quite high. But other than that, it's less than 0.5 for other projects. So if you haven't applied yet, you can see here which project would give you the best chance. Next up, let's discuss the application rate for 2-room flexi BTO for second-timer families. What is most popular here is Bukit Panjang, again because of the limited supply, but then the runner-up is Tampines, so it's a very consistent trend where Tampines is just leading in all flat types. And then the next one that is also getting a lot of attention is Sembawang. Now, interestingly, for Bukit Merah, the application rate is relatively low, and also for Toa Payoh is like that. So if you are second-timer families who are interested to apply for 2-room flexi and you would want a mature town, you can consider Bukit Merah or Toa Payoh. But even Clementi still got chance. Now let's move on to talk about 3-room BTO. So if we look at the supply and demand, as we can see, actually the most supply that you can find for 3-room is actually at Bukit Merah. But then Bukit Merah, in terms of number of applicants at the moment, is still 200 something. What is really through the roof is Toa Payoh. The amount of supply is only 78, but then we have almost 400 applicants. I'm sure the number will continue to grow, but from here we can see the overall trend of what's popular. Now let's talk about the application rate for 3-room BTO for first-timer families. For Bukit Merah, Bukit Panjang, and Clementi, the application rate is still under 1. So this is giving a very good chance for those who apply for 3-room in these projects. Even Sembawang and Woodlands, I think it's still possible. It's still good, 1.2, not so bad. For Toa Payoh, the application rate is 1.9. If you are wondering where is Tampines here, Tampines doesn't have a 3-room, that's why Tampines is not here. Okay, next up, let's talk about the application rate for 3-room BTO for second-timer families. So here, we can see that for Toa Payoh, it's amazing. The application rate as of now, it's 37.3. So, oh my God, it's really a lot. For the rest is like this lah. Bukit Merah 9.8, Bukit Panjang 4.7, etc. Now, let's move on and talk about the 4-room BTO supply and demand. For 4-room, we can see clearly that the demand for Toa Payoh is really super high. So, when other mature town, for example, like Bukit Merah and Clementi, roughly 2,000 something, right? Toa Payoh is almost double that. So if we connect the dot between this July BTO versus the upcoming October BTO, I think this actually foreshadow that probably Mount Pleasant, Toa Payoh later on would have a super high demand as well. I think later on for Mount Pleasant, the question on a lot of people's mind is whether the cemetery factor will play into the application rate, but we'll see how it goes. But at least we can see here from the data, there's a very strong demand for Toa Payoh. But remember that this is a total supply and demand, yeah. So this is a number of applicants from different groups. So not only from first-timer families, but also from second-timer families. Okay, next let's discuss the application rate for 4-room BTO for first-timer families. So as of this morning, for Bukit Merah is still at 2, Bukit Panjang 1.6, etc. The highest application rate is Tampines, followed by Toa Payoh. So the trend is still very much consistent versus yesterday. So out of the mature town, it seems like your best bet would be either Bukit Merah or Clementi. But then for non-mature area, I think Sembawang and Woodlands is where you would have the bigger chance. Okay, next, let's talk about the application rate for 4-room BTO, but for second-timer families. So, okay, so if we see the overall chart, right, the highest again is Tampines, followed by Toa Payoh, but in terms of the application rate, it's pretty much neck and neck. So good luck for the applicants here. Currently the rate is 25 something. The number will continue to grow until the sales period is closed tonight. And then Clementi is also quite high at 17. For second-timer families, if you really want to buy a flat, then your biggest chance right now would be either Sembawang or Bukit Panjang. But then for mature area, it's very tough lah. Everything is already beyond 10, beyond 20. So that's the status as of this morning. Now let's talk about 5-room and bigger flats. So 5-room, 3-gen, and also executive. So in terms of the supply, as we can see, the supply is very limited in Tampines, but then the number of applicants is like 11 times more than that. So definitely very competitive. So if you are interested in those bigger flats, I think currently Sembawang would give you the best chance. Let's look at the breakdown. So this is the application rate for 5-room BTO for first-timer families. So Bukit Panjang and Woodlands is still 1 point something, which is still conservative. I think this is still very convenient. But for Tampines, it's already almost 8. So this is the highest right now. For second-timer families, actually, in terms of the trend, it's pretty similar, where Tampines is leading, but then Bukit Panjang and Woodlands are trailing behind. But then if you see, the number is significantly higher. So for second-timer families, Tampines right now is at 47.3 in terms of the application rate. Now let's talk about the application rate for SBF. But before we proceed, comment down below, guys. Do you prefer a chart or do you prefer tables as usual? Let me know which one you prefer. So for 2-room flexi SBF, in terms of supply and demand, we can see that the supply is indeed very low. The only location where the supply is a little bit more is at Tengah with 183. But other than that, the supply is less than 100 for other towns. But in terms of the demand, we can see that there's really a lot of demand in Tengah, Tampines, Punggol, Geylang, etc. So I think the application rate is going to be very crazy for this. Okay, now let's see the breakdown. Now let's talk about the application rate for 2-room Flexi SBF for seniors. So I think what we can pick up from this chart is Tampines is clearly very popular, whether it's for BTO and also for SBF. For Tampines, the SBF application rate for seniors is 28.2, which is very high. The runner-up is at Sengkang with 13. The runner-up is actually Hougang with 15. And then I think the biggest chance right now would be maybe at Tengah because it has a little bit more supply than other location. Geylang also, the number is still okay. So that is for seniors. Okay, now this is the number for SBF first timer singles. When I saw this chart, honestly, I triple check, make sure there's no typo, but unfortunately, it is what it is, guys. So the application rate for first timer singles is really already on the triple digit for most locations right now. This is for SBF. This is probably understandable because the supply is very limited but at the same time, the demand is very high. Hence, the application rate becomes triple digit. But I think the key takeaway would be for first-timer singles, I think SBF in general is very, very difficult lah. The application rate is like this. It's crazy. It's beyond 100, already entering triple digit. So yeah, the biggest chance right now is probably at Tengah. But even when I say biggest chance, that's already very difficult because it's already 60.2. Now for first-timer families, a 2-room flexi is actually the opposite extreme. So if for first-timer singles, we see the application rate is on triple digits, right? This one is 0 point something because again, this is 2-room flexi, SBF for first-timer families. So okay, so I think this one is pretty much any town you can pick lah. The rate is very low, so I think not much to look here. For 2-room flexi SBF second timer families application rate, the data is as followed. So Punggol, Woodlands, and Yishun all tied up at 15, and then the rest is basically under 10. Your biggest chance right now would be Toa Payoh for SBF for second timer families. Now let's move on to 3-room SBF supply and demand. The supply is indeed limited, right? I think almost all of them is under 100 with the exception of Woodlands. And then the highest demand again is at Tampines. Interestingly, Woodlands also got a lot of demand for 3-room. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this. I thought maybe Tampines and like Ang Mo Kio or something, but no, it's actually Woodlands. Actually, quite a lot of people are applying here for SBF. Now let's look at the application rate for 3-room SBF for first-timer families. Overall, it's I think under 1 with the exception of several towns. The highest would be at Tampines right now, which is 4.4. But if you are first-timer families, open-minded to get a 3-room SBF, you still have a lot of chance until the application period is closed tonight at midnight. Next, let's move on to application rate for 3-room SBF for second-timer families. Second-timer families is quite high as well for some towns already entering the triple digit. For example, in Tampines, at Hougang, already triple digit. Yeah, I think second-timer families also very tough lah. The application rate is very high. Now, let's talk about the supply and demand for 4-room SBF. So as you can see, the majority of the supply is at Kalang Whampoa, and then followed by Geylang, Tengah, and Bedok. So there are some supplies. Now, interestingly, in terms of the demand, Kalang Whampoa, even though the supply is the highest, the demand is not so much. It's still under the amount of supply, so that's interesting. For Geylang, also this has catch up. I think previously at the beginning of the application period, it's not like this, but now Geylang has jumped quite a lot. Now for Tampines, again, it's a very consistent theme where Tampines continues to be popular regardless of which project or which flat type. So this is the overall supply and demand. Now let's look at the breakdown. So this is the application rate for 4-room SBF for first-timer families. So I think in some towns you still have good chance if the application rate is under 2, so still some chance. But then there are pockets of high application rate. So we can see here for Hougang, because of the limited supply, the application rate becomes 7.9, and then followed by Sengkang and Punggol. But then this one is most likely because of the limited supply. Now, interestingly, for locations where we have indicated that the supply is quite a lot, for example, Kalang Wampoa, the rate is still very low, only 0.5 for 4-room SBF first-timer family. So if you haven't applied this, please consider this one. For Geylang, it's already 1.3, now already beyond 1 already. Tengah is also 1, and then I think Queenstown also got quite a lot of supply for 4-room. Now it's already at 1.2. So seems like for 4-room SBF for mature areas, I think your best bet is just Kalang Wampoa because it has a lot of supply. Next up, we have application rate for 4-room SBF second-timer families. Interestingly, the highest application rate right now is at Punggol, and then followed by Sengkang, and then Pasir Ris. But I think again, this is SBF, so we cannot just take a look at the application rate, but we also need to consider the amount of supply. Because of the limited supply, the number becomes very skewed. Now let's move on to talk about the supply and demand for bigger flats. So this is a combination between 5-room, 3-gen, and also executive apartments. As you can see here, the amount of supply is also not that much. I think the only town where it has more than 100 is just Tengah. And then the next one is Bedok with 76. But in terms of supply, again, interestingly, we are seeing quite a lot of demand in Woodlands. I think for me, what is puzzling is because for Woodlands, so many people applied for SBF for 5-room and bigger flats. But then, if I remember, for BTO, it's not this high. So I'm not sure why, but for Woodlands, for SBF, people tend to apply for bigger flats, but not for BTO. I'm guessing probably location plays into the picture. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Now let's look at the breakdown for each category. For a 5-room and bigger flats, first-timer families application rate is as followed. Currently, the leading town is Punggol, followed by Tampines. Currently, the highest application rate is at Punggol, followed by Tampines. If you want to secure a flat, probably your biggest chance would be at Tengah, I'm guessing, because not only that the application rate is still manageable, the amount of supply is also higher. Now for second-timer families, we are already entering the triple digit again. Highest application rate is at Yishun, followed by Tampines and Woodlands as a very close second runner-up. And then for community care apartments, very small. I don't bother. I did not bother even creating a chart, but this is the number here. Again, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you prefer the table approach or do you prefer the chart approach? Let me know what would you prefer. Next, just for transparency, I am showing you the screen recording of all the tables that I'm using for today's application rate. I wish you all the best. If you are applying for this year's SBF and BTO, I wish you all the best. To get exclusive contents and support my work, click the join button to be part of the online family. Your support means a lot to keep us independent. Don't forget to join the membership, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye bye!